So originally I was going to build an A-frame, and what I decided to do was take this pallet that we had laying around and just use it. This is an experiment. If it turns out to be something successful, I can do hydroponics and filter the pond at the same time. I'll build a sturdier, more permanent stand for it. But the way this is going to work is these tubes will rest here. I've got steel strapping that's going to hold them on. There'll be holes, of course, for the cups and plants, and I'll have end caps with hose fittings on them, and I'll show you those shortly. So to start with, I'm going to put one here, one here. Not sure which plant's going to go where at the moment, but we'll figure that out as we go along. And the key thing is get these things mounted, get the waterfall pump installed, and divert some of the output from the pump to the hydroponic system. The output from the pump will come from the upper pond and flow through these tubes, there'll be two of them, and then back into the pond system, hopefully cleansed of some nitrates and other nutrients that are good for plants but not necessarily good for a pond. And now to cut out the tubes, or put holes in the tubes that I'm going to use in this experiment. I've never done hydroponics before, so I'm using two size cups, 3-inch cup and a 2-inch cup. And my idea is that the 2-inch cup is going to be for smaller things like lettuce, etc. This might have some tomatoes, possibly. I'm not sure what else. Maybe some leafy plants, help draw nitrogen out of the water that's going through the tubes. So the first thing I have to do is I'm going to strike a line across this tube. I have two of them, and I'm going to alternate these 3-inch, 2-inch, 3-inch, 2-inch. The good news is this stuff is cheap, so if I ever want to go with a full 2-inch series of one, I can do that, or 3-inch, however, whatever the case may be. But I can pop the tubes on and off with this design, which you'll see shortly what it looks like. Well, for my koi pond hydroponics experiment, I've got a stand set up. I've got 4-inch PVC, the thin wall type, and waiting on the fittings so I can put the end caps on, so I can put a 1/2-inch hose. Well, I've got all the components I need to get that hydroponic stand set up. These are the end caps. I'll be putting these right angle 1/2-inch fittings in through here. And one of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to set it up so that it's adjustable, not so that I can control the height of the water inside the hydroponics tube. And I'll probably take these little filters off, because God knows what I'll be running through that since it's coming off the waterfall pump. But what I need to do is drill these out so that this will fit in there, and get these assembled. I'll put a little bit of silicone grease on the washers so that I can move these around readily, and we'll get this going. So I'm at my mini mill. I've got all the pieces I need to bore a hole out. Got the centers marked. I have got a hole saw set up on there, which is the right diameter for the fittings. I've got this one piece of rubber 2-inch union, and I'm actually going to drill a hole in here, because what's going to happen, one of those right angle hose bibs or hose barbs is going to be here. It's going to be the takeoff point from the output of the pump feeding the top pond. So I'm going to go ahead and get these drilled out and get everything connected in there with a little bit of silicone grease, and we'll be ready to set the hydroponic setup. for the pond. The only thing that will be left after that is running hose to it and firing up the waterfall filter, or excuse me, and firing up the waterfall pump. Alright, I've got these all drilled out to the right size, and I'm going to start assembling these, putting the components in. I'm going to cut these off though. Don't want these for the simple reason that there's going to be a lot of stuff going through there, and it will probably clog this up. It's not going to be clean hydroponics water, it's going to be pond water, and unfiltered pond water at that. So I'll cut these off, and then I'll start assembling these. As it turns out, I don't have to cut them. They actually pop out. So what we will do is take a little bit of silicone grease, not a whole lot, just enough to put on the washer so that I'll be able to move these around once they're installed. Here's a view of the top pond. This is where the water is going to be coming out. I'm going to be attaching this device to the output, and that little takeoff there, that's where the hose is going to go over to the hydro setup. I'll be using this valve to create a little bit of back pressure, and I'll be attaching everything with garden hose, actually, 1/2-inch ID garden hose. I'm going to put a on-off switch on that hose as well, so that I can regulate the flow, kind of fine-tune it, if you will. So let me go ahead and put this in. So here's the koi pond, and as you see, I got some plant life in it already. Got a stream and a waterfall, and the main thing is to get the waterfall run, I've got to pump water up to this top pond that we're approaching right now. I'm using a 3,000 gallon an hour pump, and what I've done is I've fastened a takeoff of sorts behind the shutoff valve to create some back pressure. You can see a hose coming off of that, and then I've run that hose through a little shutoff valve so I can control the flow, and I've got this little setup going here. There's a nice flow of water. There's sediment going in there. Hopefully that's something that'll help feed the plants that I'm going to put in here. And got the bottom layer. Not all of those holes are going to have plants in it. I think I was a little too ambitious. And then this hose going back to the stream, and hopefully what we'll have is a little bit cleaner water once we get some plants going in there. The flow on that hose is a little, see if I can get a shot of that. It's kind of sporadic. I think that it builds up, some air comes out, and then gurgles a whole bunch of water in. But I'm going to get some plants in there and get a final shot, and we'll see how that does. And hopefully it will help filter the water and give me some good plant growth. Plants set down. Got a cherry tomato, an heirloom tomato, which was supposed to be a cherry tomato. Oops. I think I'm going to have to put some stakes up for the tomatoes anyway. So I'll just drive them into the ground and tie them up so they don't tilt the whole thing over. They can get pretty big. And keep them trimmed up too, assuming they grow. I've got some cilantro, some sweet basil, some Greek oregano too. These holes are going to be full of bush beans, which should be interesting. But it'll probably be every other hole I'll have some bush beans set up in there. And I'll do that this afternoon. So hopefully we'll see how this turns out. Again, this is hydroponics with koi pond water. Two goals. One is to suck the nitrates out of the pond water, and the other one is, of course, to get some good edibles out of it.